When I went into the race, which was in the middle of June, after that they changed the whole thing in Colorado. And they changed it. I would have done great in Colorado. And instead they have this arcane system that nobody understands. I could win Pennsylvania by a landslide, get 17 delegates, and somebody else could get like 35 or 40, and they didn't even win. But they have connections into the machine. It's not right. It's not right.
So the drama is building on this delegate matter as Donald Trump steps up his hits on the RNC. And the Republican National Committee holding its ground, saying the process has been on the books for more than a year. Getting the most attention is the so-called Ron Paul rule, which requires a candidate to win the majority of delegates in at least 8 states to be considered for the nomination. Now, with the GOP bracing for its first contested convention in 40 years, the namesake of that rule is back in the spotlight. Here he is, shown with Ronald Reagan in 1976. He's live now. Ron Paul, former Republican congressman from Texas, former president of Canada, host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report. How are you, sir? And good day to you. Thanks for coming back here.
Fine, Bill.
So if the rules aren't going to change, let's take that on the face value here. That means, the way I understand it, there are only 2 candidates who qualify. And that would be Donald Trump and Ted Cruz after he wins a few more states. Does that mean then Kasich is no longer even possible on a second or a third ballot?
Well, that's according to the rules, but rules were made to be broken. Government breaks their rules all the time. Political parties break their rules. They do whatever is necessary. They're just more in a box this time because there's been more exposure, so they can't get away with it so easily. But I suspect that that group that does not want Cruz and they're not too happy with Trump, they're going to work to change the rules. They will. At the last minute, there'll be something. But they're obviously in a real mess, but
well,
right now it looks like...
Well, when Donald Trump says it's rigged, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's rigged, too, but he thinks of it differently. He thinks of it being rigged because if there's a straw vote in a state and the delegates don't go exactly the way the straw vote, then it's rigged. But, you know, I won Iowa, but nobody remembers that because the popular vote didn't go my way. But I knew how they picked the delegates, and that was the rule, and I went and did that, and I got the large majority. I did very well in Iowa, but nobody even remembers that. But according to the rules, I won it. But they had to change that. So, but that doesn't mean that the. I think it's rigged because the candidates who have generally won our elections have always been establishment candidates, Republicans and Democrats, and there's no difference with them. This time, you know, it's a little bit different. But he's claiming that because he got the majority vote, he didn't get the delegate. That's sort of like arguing that Gore ought to be president because he had more votes than Bush, or that Texas should have more senators than Wyoming. He's arguing that sort of thing. But in many ways, it's rigged because they changed the rules. The rules basically should be out there. So the rules were beneficial actually to a candidate like myself who had less money and less name recognition. So they gave us a chance. But of course, then they changed the rules because they didn't like what the people were saying.
A bigger picture here now, to broaden it out. What does a contested convention do to a party that is trying to win a national election?
Well, it might do some good. You know, the only convention I really attended as a delegate was in '76, and that was supporting Reagan over Ford. Of course, it went Ford's way, and then he lost. But, you know, it could have bad effects. I think even 4 years ago it had bad effects because everybody thought, well, the turnout wasn't, you know, so good because I think the libertarian element is bigger than most people realize, and they were disgusted. They were disgusted with the way we were treated. It was treated unfairly, so they didn't come out. So they are in a mess, and if they have a knockdown, drag-out fight, you know, the Trump people, let's say they were able to exclude Trump entirely. The Trump people aren't going to vote. I don't think they'll come out.
Last question, yes or no. Does Trump get to 1237?
You mean before the convention?
Bingo. Yes or no?
I don't think he will. So that means there'll be a fight, but who knows?
Yeah, we're going to bring you back. You got a lot of experience on this. Thank you, sir. Ron Paul there. Thanks for coming back.
Very good.